Welcome to Thriller Recaps. Today, I am explaining the movie, Gifted, explaining every scene as it happens. Watch till the end, and please like, share and subscribe if you enjoy this. It's Mary's first day at school. Her uncle, Frank, stands in front of her door, ordering her to open up. She refuses because she's in a not-so-good mood. Finally, she opens up and says she looks like a Disney character. She goes to have her breakfast while telling her uncle she prefers homeschooling. But he says he's taught her everything he knows, and she needs the outside experience. After breakfast, he sees Mary off to the bus, and suddenly, he meets Roberta, who really loves Mary, and she confronts him for sending her to school. He tries to avoid her, but she doesn't give up. She tells him to get in his car and bring Mary back before it's too late. She's afraid that Mary will be taken away once everyone realizes she's a child prodigy. Frank tries to calm her down, saying Mary needs friends and social skills, but Roberta isn't convinced. Seeing that Frank has made up his mind, she let it be. At school, Mary is seemingly bored as Bonnie, her teacher, goes over easy first-grade math problems with the rest of the class. Mary eventually speaks up, saying first-grade math at this stage is ridiculous. Bonnie warns her for speaking out of turn and starts asking her increasingly difficult arithmetic problems to make a point. To her surprise, Mary answers them all correctly. Her classmates also seem shocked, with one of them commenting that he doesn't think anyone could answer all these correctly. During recess, Bonnie meets with a colleague and tells her about Mary. Now, recess is over, and the principal decides to observe Bonnie's class. As soon as she introduces herself to the children, Mary demands to know if she's the boss, and upon confirmation, demands that she call Frank right away and tell him to get her out of there. When Frank comes to pick Mary up at closing, Bonnie approaches him and tells him she thinks Mary might be a gifted child, referring to what she had done in the math class. Frank chalks it off to some simple algorithm he's taught her, and walks away before Bonnie can discuss the matter with him any further. Frank and Mary go to the boat dock where Frank works while she talks to him and complain about school, but Frank scolds her for yelling at the principal. Mary felt bad and apologizes for screwing up her first day at school. She also voices her fear about her new classmates not liking her. The next day at school was pet day. Mary took her cat, Fred, with her to school. After this they had a class test, but Mary's test was different as Bonnie wanted to prove Mary's intelligence. She gives Mary a test for a 6th grader which she finishes before everyone else. Bonnie then does her own research about Mary. She finds out that Mary's mom, Diane, was a math genius. Diane was working on one of the Millennium Prize problems when she apparently took her own life, leaving Mary with her brother Frank. Later, Bonnie confronts Frank at a bar she knows he hangs out in on Friday nights, because she heard it from a coworker. She blames him for lying to her, so Frank had no option than to tell her about Mary and Diane. Diane, her sister, showed up at his doorstep one night with Mary, who was just a baby at the time. She said she needed to talk to him, but Frank, already late for a date, told her they'd talk when he got back. When he got back, Diane had committed suicide in the bathroom, and Mary was in his living room. He's been raising her ever since. He also mentioned that Mary's father left his sister, barely just a month after Diane was born. On the school bus one day, Mary witnesses bullying, and she stands up for the victim, breaking the nose of the bully who's 5 years older than her. Because of this incident, Frank is called to the principal's office, and was told that Mary could be expelled for this. She also advises Frank to take Mary to a nearby school for gifted children where she could get a scholarship as she seems to be a gifted child. Frank refuses the offer because he wants Mary to have a normal childhood. He says their family has a history with schools like that. Then he states he's proud of Mary for standing up for the victim before leaving. The principal then decides to reach out to Evelyn, Frank's mother. When Frank and Mary get home that day, they find Evelyn at Frank's door. She gifts Mary a MacBook and tells her there's a mathematical book called Transitions in Advanced Algebra in it. She's shocked when Mary tells her she's read the book and has even moved forward. The next day Frank and Evelyn discuss. She criticizes the environment he is raising Mary and demands to take her with her to Boston, claiming this is for the child's best interest. She tells Frank Mary isn't a normal child and shouldn't be allowed to live a normal life. Frank doesn't want to release Mary knowing what Evelyn would make her go through as she is his mother. She then tells him to get himself a lawyer and get ready for court. Evelyn takes Frank to court when he refuses to release Mary. In the court hearings, it's said that Frank illegally adopted Mary to deny Evelyn custody. It is also said that Mary lives in unclean and unwholesome conditions. Frank's lawyer then argues that it was Frank's sister's wish for him to adopt Mary and the living conditions are all right. The judge gives the duo the chance to settle their issues amicably before, according to him, it starts costing a lot of money, but they don't listen. After the court case, Frank meets with Roberta to allow Mary to stay with her. She blames him for not listening to her about not exposing Mary to the outside world. She says she wished she could help him and agreed to house and take care of Mary as that is all she could help with. That night, Roberta and Mary have a really loud karaoke night while Frank goes to the bar. Bonnie finds him there. She tries to apologize about the court case, and the duo spend more time together. She asks what his greatest fear is, and he replied that he will ruin Mary's life. Later that day, the duo end up on Frank's bed. Mary is still with Roberta but can't find her DVD. She has to hurry to Roberta's house where she finds Bonnie. Mary greets Bonnie with a big smile that is not real. Bonnie feels bad and leaves. Mary's uncle scolds her for breaking rules and making him feel embarrassed. He says he needs time alone too. This makes Mary sad, so she goes to her room feeling upset. Later, Frank apologizes to her and says it wasn't her fault. Mary asks if he doesn't have a life because of her. He says no, and explains that sometimes people say things they don't really mean. Later that day, Roberta scolds Frank for what happened in the morning. Then, a letter comes asking for Mary to go to Boston for 2 days. Mary goes with her grandma and is amazed by Boston. Back home, Evelyn shows Mary pictures of her mom, Diane. Mary notices how Evelyn and Diane were always together. Then Mary finds out her grandma studied math at a university in England called Cambridge. Mary thinks it's cool and asks if Evelyn taught at a college in America afterward. Evelyn says no, she got married and had kids instead, ending her math career. While Mary is in Boston, Frank meets Bonnie. Bonnie tells him she's been having bad dreams about losing her job because of what happened between them. In Boston, Mary goes to a university with her grandma. Her grandma tells her she's going to work on a math problem. Mary asks if it's like the ones her mom worked on. Evelyn says her mom worked on one big problem. She shows Mary a wall with Millennium Problems written on it. There are 7 problems, and some mathematicians spend their whole lives trying to solve them. Evelyn shows Mary Diane's problem, called Navier-Stokes, but there's no picture above it, meaning her mom didn't solve it. Evelyn says Diane was close and could have won a big math award called the Fields Medal. Mary says maybe she'll have her picture on the wall one day. Her grandma promises to help her if she wants to try, and if she succeeds, her name will be remembered forever. Mary goes to the room where she's supposed to solve the math problem. She spends a long time on it, but Dr. Shacklin thinks she can't do it. Evelyn gets angry and takes Mary out of the room, saying Dr. Shacklin is too proud and shouldn't have let her try. Mary tells her grandma that the question was wrong and the problem couldn't be solved. Evelyn takes Mary back into the room, and Mary fixes the problem and solves it, surprising Dr. Shacklin. After solving the problem, Dr. Shacklin asks Mary why she didn't say anything when she knew the question was wrong. Mary tells him that Frank told her not to correct older people. Mary is taken back to her uncle. The next day, Mary tells Frank she likes her grandma, Evelyn, because she has a piano and reminds her of her mom. But she doesn't want to live with her because she's too bossy. Frank tells her she's not going anywhere. Soon, Mary meets with a therapist. She talks about her life with Frank and mentions Roberta. The therapist gets worried when Mary mentions her age and says people her age are boring. The therapist also gets concerned when Mary says she watches UFC with Frank and sometimes playfully fights with him, though she still thinks Frank is a good person. During court cases, Mary's dad, Mr. Polland, is asked to come to court. He says he never found Mary and didn't know about Diane's passing until Mary was already gone. Polland doesn't know much about his wife or daughter. He doesn't even know Diane's middle name. After the court case, Frank and Evelyn talk about Frank's stepdad. Evelyn says he's in Montana because he bought a ranch and is now a cowboy due to a midlife crisis. Frank suggests Evelyn go home or to Montana. She says she doesn't want to hurt him and hates that they're not getting along. At home, Frank tells Mary her dad was in court to testify. Mary feels really sad that her dad never visited her and doesn't even know what she looks like. She locks herself in her room, feeling hurt. Frank tells her to get ready as they're going for a ride. He takes Roberta with them to a hospital where they wait for a long time and even fall asleep before a doctor comes out and announces, "It's a boy," to the family sitting in front of them. Mary smiles watching them, and Frank tells her that's exactly how it was the day she was born. She then requests to stay for another birth while she happily celebrates with the other family. The court case drags on. Evelyn testified that Diane never liked baseball, either did she attend prom because she didn't attend a high school. She had no fun a child would have growing up. She loved mathematics and spent most of her time doing it. Frank's lawyer asks about Paul, who is supposedly Diane's first love. Evelyn argues her daughter was 17 at that time and knew nothing about love. Evelyn's confession shows the court that she never allowed her to do anything fun as a child and is possibly the reason why her daughter had attempted to take her life. She argues that Diane was exceptional and didn't want a relationship to destroy what she had. The night after the court case, Frank and Bonnie take Mary with them to the bar where she plays with one of the waitresses. The next court case, Frank is asked to testify. He's blamed for turning down a scholarship at a school for the gifted. He tells the court Diane wanted Mary to have a normal life and be a kid and be happy. He's told he's toying with Mary's future, but he believes Mary staying with him is what Diane would have wanted. He's later told by his lawyer that Mary would be put in a fostering situation. Frank immediately disapproves, but the lawyer says she wouldn't be taken far away and would go to the school for gifted kids. Frank is crushed as he thinks his lawyer should be on his team. Feeling guilty for not being there for his sister and his supposed incapability for raising Mary, he agrees. He goes to check the home of the foster parents. He asks them if they take a cat too, and they agree. The court case finally comes to an end. Mary is taken to the foster family home. She begs Frank, saying she doesn't want to stay with the family, and seems furious that Frank didn't keep to his family. She beats him angrily. Frank leaves sadly despite Mary's protests and tears. Mary leaving also breaks Roberta's heart, causing her to cry. Frank spends more time with Bonnie but doesn't stop talking about Mary and her personality. He claims he isn't capable of raising a child, yet he kept Mary. He sarcastically says she loves her new family and calls himself a hero. The next day, he goes to meet Mary's foster family. He's not allowed in at first as Mary's having a meltdown. He offers to go talk to her but is stopped, saying Mary doesn't want to see him. He asks to see her but is still not allowed to. Frank returns home heartbroken. At the library, Bonnie finds a flyer putting Mary's cat up for adoption. She calls Frank, but he doesn't pick up, so she sends a picture of the flyer to him. Immediately, Frank goes to the animal shelter to rescue Fred and 2 others. He's told the cat was brought in due to allergy issues. He immediately knows it's Evelyn's work as she's allergic to cats. He stops at his place before going to confront Evelyn at the foster parents' home. Roberta goes with him too. He finds she's in the guest house with Mary and 2 tutors. Upon seeing him, Mary runs away. Frank follows suit after throwing a file on the desk and tells Evelyn she must see it. Evelyn tries to go after them but Roberta physically blocks her way and stops her. Evelyn picks up the file while Frank manages to catch up to Mary and ask for forgiveness though she beats him repeatedly. Mary finally stops fighting and hugs him. She tells him they took Fred but he assures her the cat was with him. She then asks him why he left her there. He apologizes again saying he thought he was bad for her. Mary and Frank return to the guest house. She hugs Roberta and she's taken to the car while the tutors are ordered to leave. It is discovered that the document was finished proof for the Millennium Prize problem Diane had been working on. Evelyn says she doesn't believe it because she would have shared it with the world. Frank tells her that Diane gave him clear instructions to wait to publish it until after their mother's death. He claims he tried to talk her out of it but he failed. He tells her that she can go ahead and publish it, and leave Mary alone since she wouldn't have her time anyway. Since she asks, he tells Evelyn that if she refuses, he'll take the document away from her and wait to publish it until after Evelyn dies. Evelyn is shocked and in tears, but she takes the deal. Frank drives away with his niece and Roberta while Evelyn calls Dr. Shackland. At the end of the movie, Mary attends classes at the university in the mornings and elementary school in the afternoons. As he drops her off at school, Frank and Bonnie smile fondly at each other. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button and subscribe. I would also appreciate a comment because it helps like you can't even imagine. It's a new channel and every bit of support counts.